Good evening and welcome to Sports Overtime here in our digital studio. Southeast Sports Plus comes your way every Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. This week we spoke with our friends around Nexstar Nation, previewing this week in college football. Here's the best of.
This is a team that has found ways to win in different ways, and this time it was with the offense and then 4 straight stops on defense down the stretch against the Mississippi State team that was, they were moving up and down the field at will in the second half on them.
Yeah. And Mississippi State's offense really, really strong going into it. This reminds me a little bit of what happened last year when Quinn Ewers goes down. Arch took advantage of the opportunities. For the world that does not know much about Matthew Caldwell, what are some of his traits? Obviously, the box score speaks for itself: 1 for 1, 10 yards, and a touchdown. But what are his strengths and some of the ways that they'll utilize him if he's the guy that has to play at least next week?
Yeah, he's from Auburn, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He started at Jacksonville State. Then he went to Troy, started 5 games at Troy last year, and then was looking for a different landing spot. And I think Sark really wanted a veteran. He has 2 young guys, KJ Lacey, I mentioned, the freshman, and a sophomore, Trey Owens, from the Houston area. But, he's not had a season here where his quarterback hasn't missed a start. Mm-hmm. So I think he felt more comfortable if he could find a veteran. And Caldwell came in, and he came in the Florida game on that last drive when they were down 8 points, and Arch's helmet came off, so he had to come out for a play. And all Caldwell does is sprint out there, take a snap, and throw a dart to Ryan Wingo for a 26-yard gain, and then gives way to Arch. So his 2 biggest moments, he certainly produced. And that touchdown was an audible. He and Mosley made some eye contact and a little hand signal. If you go back and watch it, you can see it. That was an audible to throw that fade. So those are heat of the battle, adrenaline. Now, assuming Arch doesn't go, he's taking the 1 snaps today, tomorrow, probably Wednesday, regardless. So now he's got a week to prepare, but he's also got a week to think about it.
Absolutely.
And he's going to do it at home against a really good Vanderbilt team and a really good defense. So you never know how that affects him, but he was productive at Troy, and we've learned, Ole Miss, doesn't matter where you played quarterback,
yes.
You could come in and produce. So I don't think, that was the stigma maybe 5-10 years ago. Oh, well, they did it at FCS or Division II. Right. That's not the same. Now we see that it can translate. So we'll see. We'll see if the running game has improved at all. C.J. Baxter, remember, Trey Wisner came back against Florida, wasn't terribly productive. Then his second game back, he was much more productive against Oklahoma. Maybe that happens with C.J. Baxter as well. But, probably not going to have Michael Taff again in the secondary with the broken finger. So they're banged up. Offensive line's beat up a little bit. But, they do come home and play at home for 1 week before a bye week and then going to Athens.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about the going back to Austin here in a second. We got a chance to hear from Steve Sarkisian about Matthew Caldwell.
Good thing for Matt, he's a very even-keeled guy. I thought he had a great practice today. I think the players have a lot of confidence in him. I think it's his maturity, his approach. He's very engaged even when he doesn't play. If you ever watched our sidelines in game, 18 is probably the most engaged player on that sidelines. He's always picking guys up, offense, defense, special teams. And so he's got a really good relationship with the guys. And so I don't think it's like, well, who's this guy? He's in a lot of faces a lot of the times. And so it felt very comfortable, felt very normal. Today was a guy who just wanted an opportunity. And that's what we were looking for, a guy who had taken some snaps in college football. And then that's how he's performed, since the day he got here. That's the way he's worked at it throughout camp and throughout the season. And he's making the most of his opportunity.
Roger, before we move on here to Vanderbilt, I want to highlight a guy that it seems like we've started talking about him a little bit more recently, and Ryan Niblett. Now, you're in Austin, Texas. There's a guy just up the road in Arlington named Kavontae Turpin that really burst onto the scene after being a returner. Is he kind of following that same suit here?
He's pretty electric, and what he's done in 3 games is pretty remarkable. When you can point to a punt returner in 3 games in a row and said if they weren't the key, they were one of just a handful of keys to a victory. Turpin, I think, is a little more electric and slippery. Niblett's just really good, and he knows how to read the blocks. Now, he's fast, but I think Turpin's kind of maybe that next level guy. But Niblett's a little bit bigger than Cavante Turbin. It's the first time a Longhorns returned 2 punts for touchdowns in a season since Jordan Shipley. So you're going back to 08-09 era. But the fact that he has done it in the times of the game, and specifically this one, under 2 minutes to go. And Sark answered the question, kind of defending Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State, saying it's easier said than done to kick away from a guy and not let him return it, because then the precision, you don't get a good punt. Maybe it's a 20, 25-yard punt out of bounds. You're giving a team a short field. I still contend with 2 minutes to go, I wouldn't kick to this guy.
Exactly.
If you can dice them up or if you can pass the ball, you can get the ball moving through the air. That's where you can hurt this team, and especially if you can get the ball out quick. I think Ole Miss did some extra protections and stuff like that to try and slow down the pass rush and give Chambliss a little bit of extra time. And their 2 losses have come against Texas and Ole Miss, and Arch is Arch so far this year.
Right.
He's not exactly dicing anybody up through the air. So they hadn't really been challenged in a way that Trinidad Chambliss challenged them through the air. And really one of the things that kept OU in it for a while was the fact that Lane Kiffin kept throwing Austin Simmons in the game and trying to make things happen, because that just completely ruined several of their drives. And so without that, who knows exactly how bad that game could have gotten if they punch it in there and everything like that. So yeah, I think you can attack this OU defense through the air, and if they're not able to get pressure on the quarterback, then they're gonna potentially have a tough time, especially right now with Gentry Williams. He's their best cornerback, and he's always banged up. So if he is able to be healthy, their secondary, it looks a little bit better. If he's not, then that's where they're struggling, because right now their best cornerback is a true freshman, Cortland Guillory, and Eli Bowen is their second best cornerback. He's a true sophomore. So there's some inexperience there, and I think it showed in that Ole Miss game, and it's something that Tennessee can exploit as well. Yeah,
for sure. Moving to the flip side of that, the good news, I would think, for the Oklahoma offense is this might be the worst defense in the SEC that they'll face. Tennessee has not been very good defensively. How much do you think that might be able to help Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, and this offense be able to get back on track here in this football game?
Yeah, I definitely think that'll be a huge key to maybe getting Mateer. I don't want to say he's lacking confidence, because he always seems to be a pretty confident guy.
Absolutely.
But when you're playing the way you are, surely that has to knock you down a little bit in your confidence. So maybe a game like this could help him get right, and they can start and it gives them some momentum into the these final 3 games that they have after Tennessee, which is still a bit of a gauntlet at Alabama, Missouri, and LSU, even though they don't have Brian Kelly anymore. So this is an important game for the OU offense, because they need to show some more signs of life. And even when they were cooking early in the season, it wasn't exactly like they were actually cooking. They just did they did pretty well, and they let the defense kind of guide them through it. Now they're just not even playing complementary football with the defense, and I think that was part of the issue against Ole Miss. Is I think Ole Miss ran double the amount of plays that OU did. So any defense is eventually going to wear down if you're on the field that much and your offense just isn't really helping you out, giving you some long drives and everything like that.
No question. We got a chance to hear from Brent Venables on helping his QB1.
Talk open and honest with them, and try to help them manage the burden of expectations and the burden of responsibility. Certainly everything goes through the quarterback. I've said this a lot. You playing good people, you can't have a quarterback that plays poorly and expect to win, but you don't have to play perfect and win either. You just have to be able to manage the game well, and for the most part, he's done a really good job of that. We're 6-2. The success that we've had have been because he's done a great job of playing well at all the right times, and then again collectively around him, we gotta play better as well to help him. But you always. I've talked to him from the beginning of the day to the end of the day when we cross paths, both here in the building and out on the practice field. And, what the defense is doing, where the weak spots are, things of that nature. But my biggest role is in trying to support him and help him, manage the responsibility from a leadership standpoint.
So it sounds like he's saying all the right things about helping his quarterback at this point of the season. Spinning this thing forward with Oklahoma, they have one of the most interesting scheduling situations because, yes, it is a tough schedule, but if they get through it, they are no doubt in the college football playoff and probably have the best resume of all the 12 teams that will be in. They might not get the 1 seed just because of 2 losses, obviously, but as far as just pure resume of who they've beat. But going into this week, and then you're off next week, and then you have Alabama, how do you think that they're handling this, knowing that the margin of error is paper thin given the fact they have 2 losses heading into this final stretch?
Yeah, it's a super intriguing matchup because both OU and Tennessee, they're sitting on that 2-loss line. Another loss really would push them onto the bubble of the playoff and everything like that. So, and especially for OU, just the fact that you have the Alabama game left on your schedule, this almost just feels like a must-win if you're going to make the playoff.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime, and remember, you can watch our show Southeast Sports Plus from 2 to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device.
They respected Ed Orgeron because Ed Orgeron was at that facility. He lived, breathed, everything was LSU. I just felt like Brian Kelly came in for a paycheck and wanted a natty, but didn't want it enough. And so I think that's the product that we saw on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to him flaming the reporter for asking about the offense earlier in the year. And, I mean, as we've seen how that's turned out, it turns out that they were right about the whole thing because, I mean, Joe Sloan's gone now too. But I got to go back to what I asked you last week. And it stems around, is Brian Kelly James Franklin? Well, I made a comment on the show yesterday saying that Brian Kelly is the Nick Saban of James Franklin's. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is that a little too harsh?
I would have to agree with that. I mean, being 5-11 against ranked teams, you are what your record is. And that's what sucks is that he's won a lot of ball games, but he's not won a lot of meaningful games. And that doesn't cut it in the SEC. That doesn't cut it in Baton Rouge. Fans are there supporting this team. People that may not even have enough money to pay their light bill, but they're going to put money down to go watch an LSU game. And you can't even put a good product on the field. There's no relatability with Brian Kelly, and I think that's ultimately what played out is that he just was not a great leader. I think his 2 worst mistakes was when he took over this program. He got rid of Corey Raymond, who's the godfather of DBU. That was his biggest mistake, and we saw that in the secondary years to play out, and it's just now coming back with him bringing him on 2 years ago and then letting Blake Baker go. I think Blake Baker did a hell of a job with the linebackers and what he did, and he should have never left the building. And Brian Kelly was quick to bring his guys in and then realize this is not going to work. And so I think the coaching staff and what he brought in, rather than really doing his due diligence and figuring out who he wanted on that staff, he was a little lax about it and brought in guys that didn't fit what it takes in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely. Now, in my opinion and several others, this job is now the #1 job in all of college football. Let's spin it forward to who is next, both a realistic way and the way that they'll go about this search from a timeline perspective as they move forward.
I will tell you, I am a bit concerned because I'm not sure if y'all know or not, LSU doesn't have a president. So the governor has stepped in, and he's a loose cannon as it is. He brought in a fake Mike the Tiger last year, and it was a disaster. And so it's one of those things of, it scares me that he has not full control, but he's got a say-so in this. So I don't know which way you go. I will tell you before, with Scott Woodward, I believed in him because he brought in Kim Mulkey. He brought in Jay Johnson, and he's very direct and very precise in what he does and the way he does things. So, but when you have the buyout and he did the deal at A&M with Jimbo Fisher, and then he did the deal with Brian Kelly, I'm like, man. But speaking of candidates, if I had a magic wand and money and said, this is the guy that LSU brings in, I would bring in Dan Lanning. And I say that because I think Dan Lanning has been a huge success at Oregon. Obviously, we don't have the Nike money. We're not on that level. But I think you have the resources here. I think him at Oregon, he's got an easier path to the college football playoffs. So does he want to leave that? But is he that true competitor of, hey, I want to go toe-to-toe with Kirby Smart and the Georgias and show Alabama who they are now that Nick Saban's not there. That's who I bring in. I think he's done a terrific job at Oregon. I think he's also brought in some quality coaches who are now head coaches, and that speaks volumes of who is on his staff. And that's when you're successful in this industry, it's because of who you hire as your coaching staff, and he's done a great job. So me, that would be him. I'm sure I know that Lane Kiffin is going to be targeted.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lane is, because he got passed up last time and didn't get a call when they hired BK, and he is a petty Betty. I don't know if he even really goes with that, or he's going to be like, no, y'all passed last time, I'm going to do it here. But Lane has to look in the mirror and say, do I have the resources at Ole Miss to win a national championship?
Correct.
If he feels that he does, I don't think he leaves.
Right.
But I definitely think he'll listen to the call.
Yeah. But
again, I don't know if Lane is able to let that go, because he knows how to troll and he's kept receipts and that motivates him every morning. But I'd rather have a coach like Lane Kiffin who has someone to beat and wants to be there and is willing to do the work than someone like Brian Kelly, who's done this for a long time and won a lot of games, but not won a lot of meaningful games.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime. And remember, you can watch our show, Southeast Sports Plus, from 2 to 4 o'clock on the free WKRG Plus app. You can find us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device. This is one of my favorite things we do all week, a nice staple franchise here on our program. We have our overreactions after a big week in college football. Sometimes these things are way off the mark. Sometimes these things are pretty tepid, but the overreactions are what they are every week. Here's week 10.
Yeah, remember what I said earlier when we were talking about Michigan? You know, I didn't want to talk about the SEC getting X amount of teams into the college football playoff.
Right.
Well, first one here, they are getting 5.
Wow.
I believe they are getting 5, and honestly, I don't know if you can give it to Michigan with 2 losses, even though you beat Ohio State, because the USC loss is going to come back to hurt you because there's just too many good teams in the SEC this year. Honestly, I'll rattle them off here real quick.
Off the top of your head,
Texas A&M, Bama, Georgia, Vanderbilt gets in.
Okay.
And then it is going to be Ole Miss.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
I think Vanderbilt's probably the only one that you're like,
maybe shaky about, depending on what happens in that Tennessee game.
Yeah, I mean, but we're rolling on here. Lane Kiffin is definitely getting $20 million.
Woo!
It doesn't matter where. He is getting $20 million.
So that's saying either Ole Miss will pony up the $20 million or he'll get $20 million.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way. You got to pay the man. He's doing an unreal job over there in Oxford. And then off the record, or not really off the record, Cuse UNC might be the worst game ever, kicking off Friday at 6:30 Central. I mean, you talk about a Syracuse team that had so much hope and potential, and now they're just bad. And then UNC is even worse.
Yeah, North Carolina is even worse.
That's what I call a tank bowl in the NFL.
Yes,
it's like Titans Raiders right there.
We're playing for
what you got?
We're playing for the number 1 draft pick. That is hilarious. I usually peep before, but I didn't see him this time. These are my overreactions. Welcome back to the Heisman House, Marcel Reed. That's a staple of my overreactions. We welcome somebody to the Heisman House. Marcel Reed, you are going back in. Obviously, an incredible run so far, this team, both running and throwing the football. Texas will find a way to the CFP. I don't know if I'm with you about 5 teams getting in, but if there are 5, Texas is going to be one of them. They still got Vandy, still got Georgia on the board this year. I think the committee will see the late wins in a different light than the early wins and the early losses, early stumbles.
Okay.
The Longhorns are in. And Oklahoma,
Citrus Bowl.
You had playoff aspirations 4 weeks ago. But you still have Tennessee, Alabama, possibly Missouri, and maybe LSU. I can see a scenario where they lose every game. And they're going to the Citrus Bowl.
Vanderbilt fans, I'm sorry if I jinx you. I don't care.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Overtime. Remember, you can catch Southeast Sports Plus 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock Monday through Friday on the free WKRG Plus app. You can catch us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device. Good night.